Today we're delving into a topic that affects us all, the energy in our homes. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract bad luck like a magnet while others radiate positivity? We're about to explore the 5 things that may be inviting bad luck into your home, and more importantly, how you can change that energy and never attract bad luck again. Let's dig deeper into the first point, which is all about unconscious thoughts. Imagine your mind is like a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds you plant. Now, I've chatted a lot about how these thoughts hold incredible power and influence over our lives. They act like little architects, shaping the reality we experience. But here's the catch. If you're not careful, negative thoughts can create a blueprint for bad luck. Think of it this way. Your mind is like a workshop, and your thoughts are the tools you use to build your life. Now, if you're constantly using negative tools like thoughts of lack, fear, or limitation, you're basically setting the stage for bad luck to stroll in. It's like constructing a house with weak foundations. Sooner or later, it might crumble. Now, here's the fascinating part. Your unconscious mind, the part of your brain that works behind the scenes, doesn't really know the difference between what's actually happening in your life and what you're just thinking about. It takes everything you think about as if it's happening right now. Let's talk more about the second point, staying stuck in the past. It's like having a backpack full of old stuff that you're carrying around with you everywhere you go. We all have these things from our past, memories, good and bad, that we carry with us. But here's the thing, if you're not careful, holding on to these memories can bring bad luck into your life. Think of these memories as pieces of luggage. Some of them are filled with happy memories, and others might be holding on to things that weren't so great. It's like carrying around a heavy load that weighs you down. And when you're weighed down, it can feel like you're stuck in one place, not moving forward. These memories create what we call an energetic block. It's like having a barrier that stops the good things from flowing into your life. Imagine a stream of positive energy trying to reach you, but there's this big block in the way, and it's made up of memories from the past. This block can attract bad luck because it's not allowing the good vibes to come in. I often say that if you're not thinking about the future, you're making your past more real than your future. It's like living in a world where only the past matters, and you're missing out on the exciting possibilities ahead. So take a moment to look into your backpack of memories. Are there unresolved issues or negative emotions tucked away in there? Maybe you're holding on to a grudge, a feeling of being upset with someone. It could be a regret, something you wish you had done differently. Or maybe there's lingering resentment, a sense of anger that still hangs around. These emotions are like little magnets for bad luck. They create a vibration that attracts negative experiences. Now it's time to do a little spring cleaning for your soul. Let go of those heavy emotions. Forgive those who might have hurt you, even if it's just for your own peace of mind. Move forward step by step, leaving behind what's weighing you down. Your past doesn't have to define your present or your future unless you let it. Imagine unburdening yourself from that heavy backpack. Feel the lightness as you release those old emotions. By doing this, you're not just making space for good things to come, you're also creating a positive vibe that repels bad luck. It's like clearing the path for a stream of good energy to flow into your life. The third point is a lack of vision for the future. Now, envisioning the future is a powerful tool, and it's not just about material possessions. I often see people creating vision boards with images of cars, houses, and money. While these can be symbols of abundance, true abundance is a state of being, not just having. What's your vision for a fulfilling, joyful life? Connect with the emotions associated with that vision. Feel the gratitude, love, and passion as if your desired future has already happened. By doing so, you become a vortex, drawing positive experiences into your life. Remember, thoughts are powerful, but it's the emotions that drive those thoughts that create your reality. Point number 4 is allowing self-limiting emotions. Our emotions play a crucial role in shaping our reality. If you're constantly feeling unhappy, bitter, or frustrated, you're creating a vibrational match for bad luck. Your body's response to these emotions is like a magnetic pull, attracting experiences that resonate with that frequency. It's time to become conscious of your emotional state. Are you living in the past through negative emotions, or are you consciously choosing elevated emotions that align with your vision for the future? Remember, your state of being is a combination of how you think and how you feel. Choose emotions that lead you towards a positive and fulfilling life. Let's dive deeper into the 5th point, which is all about resistance to change. Now, change is something that happens all the time in life. It's like when the seasons change and the weather goes from hot to cold or vice versa. Similarly, in our lives, things are always changing. Our circumstances, our surroundings, and even ourselves. But here's the thing. If you try to stop or fight against these changes, it can lead to a kind of stuck feeling, like you're not moving forward. And yes, this resistance to change can even bring bad luck into your life. Imagine you're in a river. The water is flowing and you're trying to swim upstream against the current. It's tough, right? Well, resisting change is a bit like that. If you're trying to create a new and better version of your life while holding on to the same old habits, thoughts, and behaviors, it's like swimming against the current. You might feel stuck, and bad luck might start knocking on your door. Now, here's a powerful idea. Creating a new life means becoming a new version of yourself. It's like deciding to upgrade to a new and improved model of who you are. But here's the catch. You can't carry all the old baggage with you. You can't bring along the same old habits, thoughts, and behaviors from the past if you want to step into this new version of yourself. Picture this. You have a backpack, and inside it are all the things from your past, your old ways of thinking, the choices you've made, the behaviors you've stuck to, and the experiences you've had. Now, to create a new life, you need to take off that backpack, open it up, and leave behind what no longer serves you. Break free from the resistance that's keeping you anchored in the past, so you have the power to change it. By aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with a positive vision for the future, you can create a reality that reflects your true desires. It's a process of gaining knowledge, practicing, and experiencing the transformation within. As you start seeing synchronicities and opportunities falling into place, pay attention to the changes you've made within yourself. You are the creator of your life, not the victim. In the words of epigenetics, it's absolutely possible to condition your body into the emotion of the future, changing your biology to look like the experience has already happened. Start today, install the circuitry, and condition your body into a state of abundance and positivity. You see, going from the old self to the new self is the neurological. And when you are in a state of gratitude, your job is on the way. It's causing an effect. And by the way, what is the emotional signature of gratitude? Don't you give thanks when you get something or you receive something? So then, what if you were to begin to give thanks or feel thanks before it manifested? Would your body, as the unconscious mind, believe it's in the future experience in the present moment? Because gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And so, we don't pray in our work to have our prayers answered. We get up as if our prayers are already answered. It is that state of mind and body that I know that requires a clear intention and an elevated emotion. And the clear intention is an act of the mind and the brain. And an elevated emotion is when you open your heart. When you combine those two elements, you just moved from living in your past to living in your future. So then, here's the question. Can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the experience has already occurred? Can you fall in love with a future potential that already exists in the quantum field? And how many potentials exist in the quantum field? Infinite potentials in the quantum field. Can you select a new potential in the quantum field and emotionally embrace that future reality before it's made manifest to such degree that your body, as the unconscious mind, is believing it's living in that future reality in the present moment, and you're signaling new genes and new ways? If there's physical evidence in your brain and body to look like the experience has already happened, there's evidence there physically. By thought alone, relax, because the experience is going to find you. There's an intelligence that's giving you life right now. It's keeping your heart beating and digesting your food and organizing trillions of functions in every single cell of your body. It's organizing mutations in your DNA. There's some invisible force that's giving you life, but that same intelligence that's keeping your heart beating and digesting your food is the same intelligence that's creating supernovas in distant galaxies and causing flowers to bloom. Now, the frontal lobe is the boss. It's the CEO, it's the symphony leader. And the frontal lobe, as an executive, has connections to all other parts of the brain. Now, when you ask that question, it's got to answer it. So it's got to look out over the landscape and see what kind of raw materials do I have. Well, you only have a few things: knowledge you've learned and experiences you've had. So it begins to call up different networks of neurons, and it begins to seamlessly piece them together. And you get a vision in your mind that's called intent. And if you're passionate, you start to feel the feelings of when it happens. Now you're giving your body that energetic boost. Now everybody's done this. The moment you've said that, no one can talk you out of it. No person, no thing, no experience. You're possessed by it. So then what happens next? You start writing down all the choices you need to make, all the things you got to do, all the goals and experiences you want in your future. And every time you write one of those goals or experiences down, you start to feel more of those emotions. And now you're basically assembling more of your future. Now, the astute person does something really amazing. They start learning more information. You want to be wealthy? Study wealthy people. You want to be healthy? Study healthy people. As you begin to gain more knowledge, you're adding more stitches into the three-dimensional tapestry, and you got more raw materials to dream in new ways. Now, here's the part that is the most important. Take out a piece of paper and say, what thoughts do I have to stop thinking? You know, I can't. I'll start tomorrow. I'm too hard. I don't feel like it. I have a headache. I gotta go to sleep. I'm tired. List those thoughts and become so conscious of those thoughts that you would never let one of those thoughts slip by your awareness, unchecked by you. Can I say something about that? I want to jump in on that. One of the powers of writing those thoughts down is you completely eliminate and weaken their influence over you. They become minimized when you write them. They lose their power over you when you grab control of them by writing them down. It's a significantly powerful exercise is to write down those thoughts. From a neuroscientific standpoint, what's called metacognition, because the moment you can observe the thought and become conscious of it, you're no longer the program. Your consciousness observing the program, and you begin to literally objectify your subjective self, and now you're pulling out. So then write down the choices you have to stop making. Look at the things you have to stop doing. Are you complaining? Do you make excuses? Do you blame other people? What do you do? List those things and be really honest with yourself. What experiences do you have to stay away from certain people at certain times of the day? Stay away from them so that you are not in the environment that triggers it. And now here's the most important point. Write down those emotions that keep you anchored to the past, because those emotions are literally residue from the past chemically. So then the moment you start feeling suffering, the moment you start feeling guilt, the moment you start feeling unworthy, the moment you start feeling despair, the moment you start feeling any of those emotions, you're back in your past and you can't see the future. You're thinking within those emotional states. And we've looked at enough brain scans to say that when you think within a certain emotion, you're going to make your brain worse. This research on memory says that 50% of what you talk about in the past isn't even the truth, that you don't have the same brain then. So you make stuff up, which means now you're reliving a past that you didn't even have, just to embellish it, to produce the emotions, to reaffirm your limited state. Well, the best way to predict your future is to create it, not from the known, but from the unknown. And that void, that unknown, is the perfect place to create from. Now, why is this dangerous? Because when you're living in survival 70% of the time, there's better chances in survival from running from the unknown than embracing the unknown, right? If there's a predator out there, you hear something around the corner and you can't see it, that's an unknown. You're gonna run. You're not gonna go, and it's not a time to trust. It's not a time to open your heart. It's not a time to communicate, here, kitty, kitty. It's not a time to do that. It's a time to run. You'll never trust the unknown in that state. So if people are living by these emotional states of survival, they're never going to want to step out into the unknown because they can't predict the future. So they'd rather hold on to what they have. Turns out that those emotions of stress are highly addictive. They give us a rush of adrenaline, rush of energy. And so people use the problems and conditions in their lives to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion so they can remember who they are as a somebody. So then if your thoughts can turn on the stress response and the stress chemicals are addictive, then we become addicted to our own thoughts. So then stepping out into that unknown is where true greatness happens, because that's where the person begins to say, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? What behaviors will I want to demonstrate in my new life? Can I rehearse them in my mind? And the mere process of mental rehearsal, this is neuroscience now, begins to install the circuits in your brain to look like the experience has already occurred. You're priming your brain into the map of the future instead of the record of the past. And then the true person who's in the process of transformation will say, can I teach my body emotionally what that future is going to be like? Can I begin to embrace the joy of my new life? And their body, as their unconscious mind, begins to believe it's in the future instead of in the past. Now, that process is not an overnight process. We don't jump from the old self to the new self. It requires that continuous process of changing our biology. But I can tell you, in observing people who have healed themselves of very serious health conditions, who've healed themselves of some pretty difficult scars from the past, who've overcome addictions, who've created new opportunities and new jobs and new relationships and a new life, had to cross that river. And that is when they're literally, from a biological standpoint, a new personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's sitting here today has created the present personal reality called their life, which means then if you want to create a new personal reality, you got to change your personality. And that means you got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. Look at your unconscious habits and behaviors, what you say, what you do, and become conscious of it and change them. And look at the emotions that have kept you anchored to the past and decide if those emotions belong in your future. I think the biggest problem is that most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. So then as we begin to demystify this, the person starts to say, oh my God, the disease that I have is because it's connected to this personality. Is it possible that if I change my personality, just like a person with a multiple personality disorder who has an allergy to nylon stockings in one personality and type 1 diabetes in another, is it possible then, if I change my personality, that the disease exists in the old personality and I'm literally someone else? Is it possible then, from a biological standpoint, that they're healed and changed? So to answer the question, it's difficult because we're breaking out of a biological mold. It's difficult because most people don't know that they have within their reach all the tools to do it, because they have, number 3, been conditioned on some level to believe that the new hairstyle or the new type of beer they're going to drink or the sports car or whatever it is going to change their state. and that's the hypnosis. And when I wrote The Placebo, You Are the Placebo, the biggest thing that I walked away with after writing that book was how hypnotized and programmed we really are. And that's bothered me ever since I wrote the book, because people watch things in their external environment and they accept, believe, and surrender to that information without any analysis, and they're programmed. Some of the research shows that, 90% of the thoughts that we think on a daily basis are the same thoughts as the day before. So if you think that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, and 90% of your thoughts are the same known thoughts that you're always thinking, then your life should stay the same. Because the same thoughts lead to the same choices. The same choices lead to the same behaviors. Same behaviors create the same experiences. The same experiences produce the same emotions. Those same emotions tend to influence the way we think. And our biology, our neurocircuitry, our neurochemistry, our hormones, and even our gene expression is equal to how we think, how we act, and how we feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. So then it makes sense then, if you want to create a new personal reality, a new life, you're going to have to change your personality. And you've got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. You've got to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors, even how you speak. Then you have to look at the emotions that you live by every single day and decide, do these emotions belong in my future? So many people try to create a new life as the same person. In order to create a new personal reality, you've got to change your personality. So the principle in neuroscience says that nerve cells that fire together wire together. Thinking the same way, making the same choices, demonstrating the same actions, creating the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling called you. And you do that for 10 years in a row, you're going to hardwire your brain into a very finite signature because you're firing and wiring that way. And that box in the brain, that becomes our personality, becomes our identity. And by the time we're 35 years old, for the most part, we've done something so many times that the body now knows how to do it as well as the mind. And that's a habit. So we have these unconscious programs of behaviors, automatic habits, redundant emotional reactions, hardwired beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that function just like a computer program. You press go and it runs automatically. So then when it comes time to change, thinking positively is going to do nothing because your body has been conditioned for the most part into a program in the past. So the thought never makes it to the body because the body's on a different program. So how do we begin to influence the body so that the thought actually produces some type of change? So think about it. If you think an unhappy thought, you're going to feel unhappy. If you think you're a failure, you're going to feel like a failure. Once you feel like a failure, you're going to think you're a failure. And people get caught in these loops of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking. And that redundancy is a conditioning process, because all you need is an image or a picture or a thought and a feeling, a response, stimulus response. And so the people tend to condition their brain and body into the past. And so when it comes time to change, you gotta leave that familiar territory. And any choice that you make, if you said, hey, I'm gonna eat a better diet, I'm gonna wake up early and work out, I'm gonna do meditation, the moment you decide to do something differently, get ready, because it's gonna feel uncomfortable. It's gonna feel unfamiliar. There's gonna be some uncertainty. You're not gonna be able to predict the next moment. That means you've left your known biology and you're stepping into the unknown. Now, theoretically, that sounds great, but if the body has been conditioned into a familiar feeling, it's in the known. The moment you take it outside the familiarity, it wants to go back to where it's comfortable. So the body starts influencing the mind, and this is where people say, I want you to start your diet tomorrow. "Oh, why don't you start working out this evening? You're really never going to change. You're too tired, you have a headache, this doesn't feel right." And this is where people talk themselves out of it. Because if they respond to that thought leads to the same choice, which leads to the same behavior, creates the same experience, produces the same feeling, and then they say, "This feels right. No, that feels familiar." So going from one state of mind and body to another state of mind and body, you got to cross a river. And the hardest part about change is not making the same choice as you did the day before. Now, once people understand that they're going to be uncomfortable, then the question is, what thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors will you demonstrate in one day? And the act of closing your eyes and rehearsing who you're going to be when you open your eyes begins to install neurological hardware in your brain to look like you've already done it. Now the brain, which is typically a record of the past, now becomes a map to the future. And if you keep doing it, the hardware begins to become a software program, and you start behaving differently. And then if you can teach your body emotionally what the future will feel like, that means then you're not going to wait for your wealth to feel abundant, or your success to feel empowered, or your new relationship to feel love. In fact, the moment you start feeling abundant, you're generating wealth. The moment you start embracing empowerment, you're stepping towards your success. The moment you're in love with yourself and you're in love with life, you start creating equals in your life. Now, your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a reflection of your external environment. It's an artifact of all the things you've learned and experienced to date. Feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences. And if you're feeling the same way every single day, it means two things. Number one, nothing new is happening in your life. And if those emotions are driving certain thoughts, and those thoughts then are creating the same emotions, then your thinking equal to your emotional state means you're thinking in the past. And if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, as long as you're thinking equal to your familiar emotions, you keep reaffirming the same past experiences in your life over and over again. Our research shows without a doubt in the last 3 years that when students of our work combine a clear intention. Now, intention is a vision, a potential that already exists in the quantum field that you get to select. And when you ask yourself a question like, what would it be like to be healthy? What would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to be free or to be in love? The moment you ask that creative question, a part of your brain called the frontal lobe turns on. That's the crowning achievement of the human being. Once that area of the brain turns on, it's like a great symphony leader. It looks out of the landscape of the entire brain, and it begins to randomly select different networks of neurons that are connected to the things you've learned in your life or the experiences you've had. And it begins to seamlessly paste them together to create an ideal, a vision, or an internal representation. That is a potential experience that's awaiting you, but it's not enough to just have the mind involved. Thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. Once you can begin to emotionally embrace that future reality before it's made manifest, when you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, the freedom, the joy, the inspiration, the genuine love that you feel or gratitude from that experience, the moment you do that, your body as the unconscious mind begins to believe it's living in that future reality in the present moment. Now you're moving into a new state of being, into a new personality, and a new personality creates a new personal reality. The research that we've done shows that when we teach people how to regulate their internal states, to begin to create more coherence in their brain, and to generate elevated emotions like joy and gratitude and inspiration, that not only does the brain become coherent, but so does the heart. And when the brain is coherent, the heart is coherent. When the heart is coherent, the brain is coherent. And so why don't we live by these states on a daily basis? primarily because the majority of the time that we live in our waking state of consciousness, 70% of the time, you and I are living by the hormones of stress. And living in stress is living in survival. And when you're living in survival, the very chemicals of survival cause you to function as materialist, defining your reality with your senses. You pay attention to objects and things and people. You begin to believe that your outer world is more real than your inner world. And the side effect of this over time begins to cause us to feel separate from possibility. Why? Because when you're threatened by some predator or some danger in your life, it's not a time to go in. It's not a time to trust the unknown. It's not a time to open your heart and feel love. It's not a time to communicate. It's not a time to create. It's not a time to learn. It's a time to survive. So then, in order for us to create, we have to lay down the very thing we used our whole life to get what we want for something greater to occur. And most importantly, we want you to understand when you're in the creative state and when you're not. And if you were to take a little time every day and apply some of the principles in changing beliefs and perceptions about yourself and your life, and what is a belief other than a thought you keep thinking over and over again. And all beliefs are based on past experiences. And in order for you to change a belief or perception about yourself and your life, you have to make a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carries a level of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional conditioning in your body. And your body literally has to respond to a new mind. And when the choice becomes an experience that you never forget, that's the moment the past biologically no longer exists in you. People use the word victim so much, and I don't really think we spend a lot of time really unraveling the idea. But if I said to you, Jay, how are you doing today? And you said, well, I'm really upset because of this person or this circumstance or this condition in my life, then what we're saying, this is not conscious, this is an unconscious program. What we're saying is somebody out there is actually controlling the way I'm feeling and the way that I'm thinking. So if something out there is controlling your feelings and your thoughts, you're victim to whoever, whatever that is.